So today I want to talk about art books. I think art books are extremely valuable for artists. You can use them to see how other people solve problems. So like whenever you encounter a problem in your drawing, tons of people have already encountered this problem through the years and many of them have put it into print. We have this resource. Art books are a ton of fun. They're super inspirational. It's like you have an exhibition. So art books are also a great way to teach yourself how to see. When you start drawing from these and using them, you'll begin to notice things that the artist did. And then you'll begin to notice other artists doing similar things. And it kind of builds on itself and it compounds. And you'll begin to see things that you never saw before. And then those things you can put back into your own art practice. I have a rule for art books. If I buy an art book, I have to use it. And so I'm very strict about this. If I start getting art books and not using them, then I can't get art books anymore. And it's my favorite vice. So I'm highly motivated to use these for different ways. And I'm going to talk about the different ways that I use them. I break them up into three categories. So there's the nonfiction, fiction, and what I'm going to call showcase, for lack of a better term. I'm going to talk about each category. So first is the nonfiction. Nonfiction art books typically have an index, which is a wonderful thing. And they are didactic, so they tell you exactly how to do the thing. I include this as an art book too. It's not technically or specifically an art book, but it's useful for the same way. There's lots of books like this that are either for, curious people or other professions, and they're really great for artists because you can learning how things work makes it easier to draw those things. But the more traditional kind of art book is like this, and basically just has sections and it tells you how to do specific things. This one is about lighting. So for these books, if I'm trying to draw something and I'm not exactly sure how, or I need a refresher, I'll pick the relevant book, go to the index, and just find what I'm looking for. Commercial interiors, for example. Let's see what they have to say about commercial interiors. It'll just I'll just read through this as I'm preparing to do the drawing or the painting of my commercially designed interior, and this gives me just a kind of basic understanding and helps make my drawing more real. And so it's good to have a range of these books kicking around. This one's particularly good because in the back they have this diagrams of all the different facial expressions and tells you exactly how to do it. So, like I said, these books are great because they tell you what to do. Another fun thing to do with these kinds of books is flip to a random page and just read it. So I do that sometimes, and it's a good way to just sort of gradually get a little drip of information into your head. These books, I rarely will read them cover to cover, almost never, because it's too much, it's too daunting. It's like reading a textbook. You need a whole semester to do it. But take it off the shelf, flip to a random page. I could read through this in a few minutes and then spend the rest of the day thinking about it and maybe putting it into practice in my own work. That's a really kind of undaunting way of using these books, because these books can be a bit of a challenge when you're facing them. They're just so full of information, and so it's in the past I've gotten art books. I try to read them cover to cover and get a third of the way through and just don't know what I'm reading anymore, and it can be overwhelming. So it's not a bad idea to just take little bite-sized parts of these as well. So use the index, or just randomly find something and do a little piece of learning. Next is fiction. So comic books, illustrated books. These are more for inspiration and for practicing with. So, for example, this is in watercolor. This is a watercolor comic. I make watercolor comics sometimes, and I'm trying to get better at it. So I just did a copy of that, as one-to-one as I could. I use ink in my watercolors. I think this is done in pencil, so I used ink with it. But basically, just trying to see, the use of color and the use of the washes and stuff like that for my own learning. And with comics, you can like flip through and not only the drawing skills or the painting skills, but also the storytelling. You can look at the lettering, right? I notice here there's no panel borders, like it's just the art. There's no line. So think about, you know, why. What does that do? You can see the paper texture for the watercolor paper. So, and this is a more of what I was talking about, training your eye how to see. When you go in specifically looking for things in these books, you start to notice them in other places, and I think it makes your art more rich. And same thing for illustrated books. Going in and thinking about, okay, the color, the focal point, how they use the composition. Also with books like this, I think about the paper sometimes, the reproduction quality. If there's stuff about it that I like, maybe I'll make a mental note for the future if I'm printing my own works. And so with these, same with the showcase books. Another way to use them, I might just look at this picture, just do a little thumbnail, just do a little value study really quick, see how the artist kind of broke up the space for the sake of composition. Have this like dark shape on the bottom, and then these forms here. It's really simple. It's really quick. And it does a couple of things. Firstly, it teaches you how to see, so how to look at things and see the composition in terms of light and dark, or in terms of just values. And it can also help get you into the headspace for doing this for your own work. So when you make a new piece, it's really helpful to do this in the early stages, but it's tough. You want to go in and you want to just start drawing. And so doing these studies of other people's work can help make it a lot easier when it's time to do them of your own, because you don't have to make it up for this, right? You just look at that and do it. Whereas when you're making your own piece, you have to start from scratch. And so having in your head kind of how this works and kind of reverse engineering it is a really helpful thing when it comes time to doing this for your own work. Also can do this with color. So just take, a little bit of paint, take a little square and do the same thing. You'll see, just a little square of orange here, a lighter blue and a darker blue, and see how that works together as a color palette. And the final category is showcase. And this is a broad category. There's a lot of different kinds of stuff in here. We have sketchbooks. So this is just reproductions of sketchbook drawings and roughs. And this is really good for getting an understanding about how different artists, how the artist works. We have these, beautiful books like this that have reproductions of paintings and stuff. This kind of interesting thing. This just has NASA photos. It's a great reference for if you're doing stuff in space. And it's really cool for lighting. A lot of these are really interestingly lit. Books like this, books of patterns. So I was just in a bookstore and I saw this and thought, this might be interesting and it might come in handy someday. So if I need to do any patterns, designs. And these books are not for copying in a final product. These are for inspiration. So there's art of books. Has the production art and stuff. And artist editions. These are wonderful because you could see the, whatever there's whiteout, whatever the, these are the raw pages, untouched up for print. So you can see like here, using a little bit of white media on top of that black to get the snowy windswept thing. You can learn from that. And so, as with the fiction books, these ones I also like to do drawings from. See here, just did, as close to a one-to-one as I could of this sketch, and I was thinking about how he constructs the head and the hand. Kind of, I would never draw a figure like this or a head like this, and so I want to feel what it's like to draw like that, and see if there's anything that resonates with me that I can use in my own work. The goal is not to draw like Arthur Adams, although that would be pretty awesome. I want to draw like me, but I want to know if there's anything that Arthur Adams is doing that can be helpful to my own work. And you can see here I drew Mark Schultz, Jaime Hernandez. So I do a lot of this, and it's really valuable. But aside from actually drawing from these books, you can also just use them for inspiration. So if I'm sitting down, I'm getting ready to draw, maybe I'll take 5 or 10 minutes, grab a random book, and just flip through it and look at it and kind of get myself inspired and ready to work. And so the really great thing is that any book that has pictures in it can be an art book. So these are just some examples, but anything you find that has art in it technically can be an art book, and you can use it like an art book too. So like this is a very broad range of kinds of books, but all art books to me. But with books like this, you have to be a little bit more of a self learner. You're in charge. You're not being told what to do. So those are some thoughts on art books and how I use them. I'm curious if any of you use art books. How do you do it? What do you use them for? How are they part of your practice?